going on, everyone? My name is Northy, and we are back once again for the round 12 preview for the AFL Teamcoach season. Pretty much halfway through now, and it is bye week time. So we've got some interesting little scenarios going on in the AFL now, and we've got to kind of change our teams around it. We've got 4 byes. Some including some teams that we use a lot, including North Melbourne with Harry Sheezel. We've got GWS out, so no Lockie Whitfield, no Tom Green, the likes of those. So Brisbane, I think, are also out, and I think it's also Sydney. So 4 of those teams that are honestly quite important, especially Sydney. Loads of really good players there that we can't use. So it's going to be a bit of a tough week, bit of rough and tumble here and there, a few injuries to make things interesting as well. So hopefully this week around we can manage to do really well in our top team as we did last week, and maybe find a prize card somewhere in there as well. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. But before we fully get in there, let's make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Everything is always very, very much appreciated, and let's get started, man. I'm keen as a bean to see whether we've got a winner this week and make sure our teams are saved. So here we are. As you can see, at the time I'm recording this, less than 4 hours until game time, but we've got ourselves some fun matchups that we've got to work out here this week. So obviously some will stay the same, as there's no reason to change them up, but others are going to be a little different. So we're going to have to see what works this week and what doesn't. I'd imagine a lot of people are going to have very different teams, but some are pretty thin, man. Some are pretty thin. So we'll look over at the star powers first, and luckily, with the way that the rounds are matched up this week, I don't need to make a single change. This team did really well last week. I'm hoping it does well again. Hopefully finds ourselves a prize card in here too. But if everything goes to plan, maybe 600, this team will do really well. One of these guys needs to drop 150 again. If not, I don't imagine something will get too good for us. But as long as everyone has good performances, I will be happy. And it puts us in contention for the silver star powers. But this one, as we know, last week, we didn't get a score. I believe we would have had ourselves a prize card, but we didn't because of the fact we hadn't saved our team. So don't worry, this week we have saved a weekly selection. We are not getting tricked by that. So let's go and look at our ultra star powers as well this week, and some changes, some are staying the same. So obviously, because GWS are not playing, I am not putting Lockie Whitfield in. I also can't put Nick Blakey in. So our choice is Harris Andrews. I'm going to have a look through my folder and try and find some other star powers cards to use, because I'm not confident at all using Harris Andrews. Oh my god, I've just realized that I can't even use Harris. He's Brisbane. Hold on 1 second, guys. Alright, my defensive dynamo this week is Tom Stewart. This is a very late change, but I realized that like all of the players I have cannot be used. That is madness, by the way. I can't use Whitfield, Blakey, Sard, or Andrews. Man, that is unlucky, but hopefully that luck is back next week. But Tom Stewart, he hasn't had some bad performances so far this year. He averages about 80, so if we can get him on a good game, maybe we see 100 from him, but it's going to be a tough one, I think, that defensive dynamo. My biggest stress, of course, is this Nat 5. It's the only other double points I really have. Outside of everyone, I have so many midfield bulls, so many mighties, like I've barely got next generations. I just keep pulling midfield bulls. It's ridiculous at this point, but I do have this Nat 5 Trailblazer. I did want to try and get a Nick Martin double points player in before the end of the week, but unfortunately the card hasn't showed up yet, so I've got to try and take this week without it. Maybe we get lucky. I do not know. I don't expect it, but if it happens, I'll be over the moon. I really will. It would be an absolute treat to have ourselves a great week in star powers, but unfortunately I'm preparing for the worst. It's going to be a tough one. 2 rough weeks in a row, it's looking like, but don't worry, at least we are going to get some points. The weekly selection has been saved, so there's the positives there, I guess. I don't know how I feel about it. It's a bit of a weird scenario, star powers at this moment, but we're going to check top team now, and this is where things get super interesting. So obviously this was an amazing week for top team. We finished 6th with our team last week. Heaney is the usual one that comes here, but this week we are going with Cameron. They have a favorable matchup up against the Richmond Tigers. Richmond do have some solid defenders here and there, but Jeremy Cameron, as much as he can get around the ground and get himself involved against a team like Richmond, I'd like to think that he can like have his way, but at the same time, Richmond, they showed some fight against Essendon, and Geelong are on a 4-game losing streak, which is crazy to think after how they started. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game there, I feel like. A bit of an underrated one. But other three are staying the same. We're sticking with Dawson, Dacos, and Gawn. Those guys did us so well last week, and Dawson remains pretty consistent at the moment. So we're going to give him another run, see how we do, and I'm hopeful that this will be another great week in terms of top 4. Again, just a solid score will be enough for us. If we can manage to get ourselves a high 400 score, I will be just as happy as I was last week. But top 18, we finished first last week, so we've got a lot to deal with here, especially now knowing that we are within range, I'd imagine, of getting back into that top 5. We know that top 18 is a tough one this year, and it's going to be just a tougher week. Some have stayed, some have changed, just purely off of the fact that we've had to. My forward line feels awful. I'll be completely honest. I'm really scared for this forward line. To give you an idea, Toby Green's not playing. Todd Marshall, yeah, he's playing, but he averages 63 for the season. I don't imagine he's going to have another 100-point game. Carl Langford is in some form, but again, isn't guaranteed. Cozzy, that's a massive risk. Sometimes he plays well, sometimes he doesn't. These two, and Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay, you can always trust at least for goals, so I'm hoping that goes all right. Cameron, after a poor week, we need him to bounce back, and Brian Myers usually plays well, but after last week, you never know. Some ones that we could have put in were Luke Jackson, but with Sean Darcy back, he has noticeably dropped off, as he usually does when Sean Darcy is back in the team. So we are keeping him out, and this is what it's looking like. I am so nervous with this team. This forward line, I feel like this forward line, at the worst of times, could literally drop the 6 worst scores of the round. Like, it can get that bad, I feel like, with these guys. I'm just hopeful that we can get some 100-point games in there somewhere. But honestly, this week, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a single one. In a week with everyone, we only had, what, 4? And it took big, like, massive games from these guys and Toby Green and Isaac Heaney to play outstanding games, and that's got them just over 100 points. So there's a good chance no one gets over 100 for forwards. I am kind of confident with that, but I'd be more than happy to be wrong. We check the midfields, though. Sam Walsh gets the markup. He is jumping in this week. Coming off a good game last week. I think he has had times where he's looked a bit iffy, but we can definitely find ourselves a good game here this week up against Port Adelaide, so it's going to be a very important one for them. Jack Steele has remained pretty consistent, so we're going to give him a run. Hopefully he plays well. We've got Nick Martin and Zach Merritt in there. They both drop 100 pretty consistently, so I'm confident chucking them in there. And of course, Dawson, after his week last week, definitely getting another shot this week. Then we go to our defenders, and Ridley, man, was he good for Essendon coming back. He is going to be a welcome treat for the Essendon Bombers. He's now taken kick-ins, so there's some easy points in there. Look at all the marks. I mean, the Bombers love to try and kick it around, to switch things around. Nick Martin had that week where he absolutely popped off because he'd be in the back line just getting those easy kick-in marks, and that's kind of what Jordan Ridley was doing. So I'm hopeful that picking him up and using him this week will give us a good shot. Bailey Dale stays in even after he had a poorish week the week before, but back to speed. Obviously, Sheasel isn't playing this week. He's the one missing there. Sinclair is out. Honestly, I'm not sure whether maybe we try and give Salem a run, because you can see 14 marks maybe shows signs of things getting better, but at the same time, the opponent they were playing against was St Kilda, and St Kilda loved to turn the ball over entering their forward 50, so it kind of just gave the Demons easy chances to get and rack up possessions. It's a bit tough, and Dacos is getting the usual run with Luke Ryan. Hopefully they can both have good games once again. Young as well, no 100 points in a good while, I think, or at least he hasn't been high 100s for a good while, but he averages 100. He is a safe pick, so I'm hopeful that we can manage to work it out once again. But that's the top 18. Again, we finished first, so we can't do better, but we surely can stay competitive and try and get ourselves another prize card, because yeah, top 20 here is a blessing. I'm so glad this is top 20, because I feel like it's one of the easier ones to try and get a prize card, or at least there's the most wiggle room to try and get a prize card, and obviously finishing first helps. So hopefully this means that the signs are good and we're getting a good week this week. But of course, we're going to finish finish it off with the tips. I'll go through it quickly for you guys, but my tips this week, I'm going to go Carlton over Port Adelaide. I'm going to go West Coast over St Kilda. I'm going to go Essendon over Gold Coast. Going to go Collingwood over the Dogs. Going to go Geelong over the Tigers. Going to go Melbourne over the Dockers. And I am going to go Adelaide over the Hawks. I think this is a bit of a rushed one, but honestly, the more thought I put into it, the worse I've done. I'm very average when I put thought into it. So you know what? This week, we're just rushing through it. And that is about it for this week. Like I said, kind of just rushed through that last part, but at the same time, there's some things here and there that we've changed up. The top 18 just looks crazy different to what I'm usually picking, but I'm excited. It's going to be a new and different type of week. I'm hopeful that we've got the right players. I'm hopeful that we managed to get ourselves some more prize cards. Good feeling when you can get them. Obviously, when I miss them out like I did last week, I just pray that maybe this time around it goes well. But I'm happy, man. I am content with how the week is looking, and I'm just ready to watch some football, man. As every weekend kind of goes. I'm ready for football weekend. It's exciting. But once again, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Everything is always very, very much appreciated, and I hope to see you all in another video very, very soon. Goodbye.